Hi there makers, I'm Gavin.
And I'm Annie.
Here at Minerva, and welcome back to another one of our fantastic Sewing Bee videos. So every week we dive into what's been happening in the latest episode of Sewing Bee. We look at some of our favourite makes from the episode, give you a few little tips on patterns, fabrics that you could choose to make some of those items for yourself, and really just have a good old chat about what's been going on. Now, every week we do remind you that this is very much a spoiler zone. We will be talking about who's won, who's going home, the hits and the misses of the week. So if you haven't seen the episode yet, please do pause here, go and catch up on the BBC iPlayer, and then come back and join us once you're all caught up with the action. But before we start, what are you wearing today, Annie?
Well, it was a very bright, colourful week, and I did hear Esme say something about how she really likes pink and red, so I thought pink and red. So I'm wearing the Closet Core Jenna shirt in our exclusive Kitschy Bee style Happy Hour cotton poplin.
And it is beautiful.
Yes, I'm very proud of this one because it's my first proper shirt. So
beautifully done, and look at that, all the buttons
yes,
and buttonholes are all on there. Can I say how much I like having a label on the outside of a garment?
Yeah, I like a little label on the outside. And I thought this was pink, so it went with the pink of the...
Very nice.
Yes, clearly been influenced by our resident shirt making expert. What shirt are you wearing today?
Well, given that it is Mexico week, I had to sew up something with our Melissa Lowry collection.
Yes.
So one of our collaborations we did earlier this year was with Melissa, who has Mexican origins and really channeled some of her kind of Mexican heritage into her designs. So this particular shirt is the Love Notions men's Bandcamp shirt. I've done this in two colourways of Melissa's Festival de Flores print. This is the Azul and Blanco colourways, and this is in our linen look cotton fabric.
Very nice.
First time working with our linen look cotton, and it's really lovely. It's like looser weave, a little bit lighter, very summery vibes. Absolutely delight to sew with.
Looks lovely. I love the stripes, and I have to say I love the little detail of your little turn-up cuffs, how you've got the opposite colourway to the sleeve.
Well, this is very much kind of inspired by a shirt I made last year that I got really good compliments on, so I thought that was, when I saw these Melissa prints, I was like, right, need to do the same with this.
So for the first challenge, the pattern challenge this week, the sewers had 3.5 hours to create a Mexican folkloric top, which was inspired by a garment called a huipil. It's a sacred garment that's taken from the Mexican region of Oaxaca. So they had these beautiful woven cotton fabrics. I think they said they were like hand woven on a loom by people from this particular Mexican region. And they were allowed to take one piece of this cotton and then as many ribbons and trims as they wanted to create their top. And I think it was a deceptively simple top pattern because the actual sewing of the top was basically just you folded it over, there was a hole for your head and some side seams, but it was the accuracy of all those placements of the ribbon that Patrick and Esme were really looking for, precision and good sewing. Yeah,
I think you're right that there were some little tricky bits in what was otherwise a really simple top. Creating perfect mitered corners in ribbons, I don't think is that easy.
Definitely not easy.
And I think it can probably get quite bulky, especially with some of those kind of jacquard woven ribbons. Yeah. And clearly some of the real challenges were getting the placement right, but also those very neat parallel lines. They wanted to see the same distance all the way around, and there were a few pitfalls that people fell into. Yes,
I think, you had to make sure you got everything precisely marked up probably before you started even thinking about putting your ribbons on, getting everything measured accurately. And then I think there was the very final neckline ribbon. You had to make sure that you did your facing and folded that in before you did that ribbon, otherwise you just didn't have enough space and it ended up too close to the neckline. And there were two people, I think, who got a bit trigger happy with putting all the ribbons on, and then realised afterwards that they should have done their neck facing first.
Well, shall we dive on into start talking about some of the makers?
Yeah.
So I think right at the bottom of the pile came Tim.
Yes.
And I think that was partly for the reason that you said. He was the first one, I think, to notice that he'd put on his final ribbon trim before putting the final facing in, which did cause problems. I mean, I can see that you would probably just have to go over your line of stitching again.
Yeah.
And I think that he at least had enough space around the neckline to do that. But it sounds like he had gone wrong from the very first step.
Yes.
So he'd marked out where the outermost ribbon had to go and then sewed it on the outside of that line rather than the inside, which meant that he didn't have much space along the shoulders, and it really, I think, compromised the overall look of the design.
Yes, because I think if he's measured everything from that first outside ribbon that he's done, all of his ribbon placements are going to be off.
But I thought the ribbon that he'd chosen was gorgeous.
Yeah, I think the colours worked really well together.
Yeah, that was one of my favourite ribbons that we used, and I think it had real impact, and I think it was a good choice for the outermost one to be really kind of dominant and give that real framing to everything else. So I felt it was such a shame that he'd kind of messed it up a little bit.
Yes. I think on the other end of the spectrum we had Heather, who she'd done her outermost ribbon like far too close to the neckline.
Yeah.
It was a lovely ribbon again. It looked really lovely as a top.
Yeah.
But again, she just got it in completely the wrong place.
It was such a shame because I think Heather's combination of colours was my absolute favourite.
Yeah.
She had that gorgeous, like soft blue woven fabric, and then that ribbon with the kind of deep blue and the real pops of red flowers on there was just gorgeous. It really made me want to put some trims and have a play with some ribbons. But yeah, such a shame that because she'd missed that kind of outer edge one, that it kind of, she got marked down for not hitting the brief. Another one who messed up around that neckline was Minnie, who, unlike Tim, really hadn't left herself enough space, because it was that final ribbon was so tight to the neck hole that it just ended up kind of awkward, uneven, and it just made it really obvious that that mistake had happened there, which again was such a shame because literally all of these tops looked lovely.
Yes.
So Anna had jumped on the beige fabric, which obviously Lewis wanted because he's a fan of a neutral, and I thought that was a really nice choice to make a statement of some really gorgeous ribbons. But then I thought the ribbons that Anna picked didn't have enough impact, or could have had more impact on that beige background.
Yes, I think when Esme and the guest judge Erica came over, they kind of discussed her ribbon choices, and I felt that even then Anna didn't seem to have much confidence in her choice. She was sort of unsure herself of how the colours were going to work together. I think they worked together in the end.
It worked, but it wasn't like Heather's. There was a cohesiveness to them and a colour scheme that really kind of enhanced the overall garment. I think Anna's, they framed it, but it wouldn't have been one that I'd have picked up on the shelf.
Yeah, I think she needed just one bold ribbon to kind of start it all off, and then she could have complemented her sort of inside ribbons from there. But yeah, I think it was just, she just seemed to sort of lack confidence in her choice a little bit this time.
Well, I think this was one of those challenges where, yes, it's a pattern challenge, but I think it was partly a kind of creativity and colour challenge, and then about how well you could place those and sew them. And Anna was perfect on the sewing.
Yes,
sewing
was lovely.
Always. But yeah, could have just pushed a little bit further with the colour scheme, I think.
Someone who I think was very confident in their colour scheme was Rebecca. So as we have seen, Rebecca loves pink.
Bit of a pink fan.
I mean, I love pink as well. So Rebecca...
I'm a blue fan myself.
Well, yes. Rebecca was kind of first to the fabrics, picked out the pink one, picked out her pink ribbons. And I think having that sort of favourite colour or colour that she really likes to work with just gave her that little bit of confidence that she knows the colours are going to work together because it's something she wears a lot, she styles it a lot herself. And yeah, I think hers it was bold and it was really nice.
So number one top pick from the judges this time was Beth,
Yes.
who, frankly, first of all, congratulations to Beth.
Yes.
Really great to see Beth finally get a win on the board.
Finally, yes.
Because she has been up there in like the top 2-3 for, I feel like, every challenge.
Yeah, I think she's been just sitting behind other people every time, kind of like just in second or third place. So it was fantastic to see her get a win. A very well-deserved win. I loved her colour combination again. So she'd gone for kind of a pink base fabric and then these kind of like gold ribbons and trims that looked lovely. And she had, I think, a little bit of a problem again with the neckline one, but she saved it.
Yeah, I love her ingenuity there. She'd placed her trims in such a way that when it came to that final trim, the ribbon that she had was too wide for it. So rather than kind of muddle along with that, she literally trimmed her ribbon in half to make a very narrow one, but did such a tremendous job of sewing that in place and getting the spacing right. She was so good at all those mitered corners. Yeah. It was just so spot on that, and it just, what was lovely is that it kind of automatically coordinated because it was one of her other ribbons, but she trimmed the size down.
Yeah, I have to admit, when I saw her trimming it and how thin it was, I was panicking for her because I thought that is going to be tricky to, you're going to have to do really precise sewing to get that on, but she managed it and it was super neat and it looked fantastic.
Well, I think we saw later in the episode as well, when she was doing her made to measure, that she knows her way around a trim and how to work with them. So congratulations, fantastic job. If you wanted to make your own top a little bit inspired by the kind of Mexican styles that were shown on the show, obviously the folkloric top was something created especially for the show, something that I think would allow you to have a play around with embroidery, have a play around with trims and get something of a similar kind of style and vibe, is the Old Mexico dress from Folkwear. Now again, this is inspired by kind of 16th century Spanish colonial style. It's a lovely kind of top or dress that has a gorgeous yoke detail across the front and back. This one does have kind of separate sleeves, little gathers to it as well, but it's that yoke detail where you can really play around with embroidery. So if you wanted to, you could absolutely follow the inspiration from the show and kind of frame that with ribbon trims, or you could use a gorgeous embroidered fabric or get creative with a bit of hand or machine embroidery as well. I think you could create some absolutely lovely looks from this. And then a fabric that we picked out. Obviously, we don't have anything kind of handmade by makers in Oaxaca, but what we do have is some of this absolutely beautiful woven cotton jacquard from Fabulism. Now this is a new brand that we've only kind of got on site fairly recently, but their fabric is gorgeous.
We have been eyeing up this fabric for weeks because it's just so lovely. There's so many wonderful designs in there. I really like their style of kind of like simplistic designs. I think you could make really timeless garments with them.
Yeah, and they're all hand woven. They're all made from 100% cotton. They've got very kind of sustainable credentials in there, and the colour tones they use are just really beautiful, quite warm, earthy tones. So this particular one is the Fabulism Sprout Wovens yarn dyed jacquard, and this particular one has these lovely little X's, little kisses woven into the design, and because it's a jacquard, what that means is that the front and the back are both woven so that you could almost use either side of that, and it's all yarn dyed, so beautifully colour toned throughout. So this would just be absolutely gorgeous, and I think because it's already got that almost slight sense of texture and embroidery to it, as part of the old Mexico dress, I think this would just be a lovely base to really get creative with. Next up came the transformation challenge, where, as always, the makers had 90 minutes to transform something into a beautiful garment. So this time around, they were all given that fantastic Mexican oilskin manteles de hule tablecloths. So a lot like the kind of fabric that you would get for an outdoor tablecloth here in the UK, or maybe for like a kid's raincoat.
Yeah, like that kind of almost vinyl type sort of fabric. It was very structured.
Yeah, like a laminated cotton.
Yes.
Yeah. So structure was pretty much built in, and that is what the judges wanted to see. So they wanted them to take this and create a dramatic piece with some structure to it. What did you think?
I thought this was a difficult challenge because the fabric was just, I mean, Patrick even said it would probably be quite hard to sew. So I think even just trying to get that through the machine, they're going to have the challenge with that. And it was so structured, it really didn't have much movement at all.
I love the way when like Rebecca had just placed it up against the mannequin, she's like, you could just leave it here and it doesn't move or flop or anything.
I think it would be so different from any type of fabric that they have likely worked with before, especially when it comes to like dressmaking, garment making. So you'd have to be very creative, and I think it would be very easy to be outside of your comfort zone with this fabric.
Yeah. And I get where Patrick was coming from in terms of it being difficult to sew. I imagine with a regular presser foot, this is going to stick. It's going to be really hard to get kind of even stitches. This is something that you're going to want like either a Teflon foot or maybe a walking foot.
I noticed that it looked like a lot of them had the walking foot on their machine, because I think, trying to get that through a regular presser foot would just be a nightmare, especially when you've only got 90 minutes to get it all done.
Exactly. and this isn't, a lot of the time they'll do like kind of pleating or like draping on the mannequin, and then we'll do some hand stitching. This is not the kind of fabric that you're going to want to do hand stitching with.
No. So one that I really liked was Minnie's. I thought hers had almost like a very Mexican vibe to the final result. So it was like this simple dress, but this one-shouldered asymmetric ruffle that was just so dramatic. I think like the kind of pleating or gathering that she'd done in that structured fabric just made it so dramatic, so over the top, and I think it was a really lovely garment.
Yeah, I thought she did a super job. It was giving kind of cocktail singer.
Yes.
I could see someone kind of doing a little kind of slinky dance in it. It had the drama, and I loved that she had taken a different route slightly to everyone else with it.
Yeah, there were a lot of fans going on.
Yes.
Which I can see why, you just sort of fold it up a little bit, maybe when you're just playing with the fabric, trying to get a feel of what you're going to do. And, you fold it up a bit and you think, oh, it's going to make a really nice sort of structured fan. So I can see why a lot of them went for that kind of route with their designs.
Were you not a fan?
I was, but I would have liked to see some kind of variety.
I think what I liked about Minnie's is that she created a slightly similar kind of fan-like structure by making it into ripple, but it felt fully integrated into the outfit. Yeah. Whereas likes of Emma's and Tim's, the big fan users, I thought what they did was fantastic.
Yes.
But theirs were very much embellishments. So I think they had a more standard kind of garment underneath with the embellishments creating that sense of structure, which was fantastic. And I think in the time you've got, do what you can. That is a great way to go. But I think those people who managed to incorporate that structure into the real body of the garment, I thought were the most effective.
Yes, yeah.
So someone I felt should have placed higher than they did, certainly for me, was Adele. Now, Adele had this gorgeous yellow tablecloth, and she treated it like she would any other piece of fabric and created this really gorgeous little top dress, with just fantastic big voluminous sleeves, which she'd gathered with elastic at the sleeve heads. It had a little kind of flared out little peplum skirt, and I thought it was super cute.
I thought it was really cute, and like you say, she treated it like you would treat a normal fabric, so you could make that sort of design in something like a cotton poplin, and you'd still have a little bit of structure, but nowhere near as much as you will with an oilskin tablecloth, of course. But yeah, I thought it was very cute, and similar to Minnie, like she'd incorporated the structural elements into her design rather than it just being kind of embellishments. So yeah, I thought hers was really nice, and yeah, I feel the same, that maybe she should have placed a little bit higher than she did.
I do understand that the judges felt like the openings for the sleeves were maybe a little tight.
Yeah.
But for Esme to say, oh, it might be a bit uncomfortable to wear, it's like
it's
they're oilskin tablecloths. I mean, you're not wearing these as lounge pants.
Now, someone who I think has consistently struggled with the transformation challenge, and this week openly said that it's not his favourite challenge, was Lewis. And I think he kind of maybe got a bit stuck on the oilskin, laminated cotton, vinyl, waterproof kind of elements of the fabric, and he went down the route of creating almost like a waterproof coat, which I will say was very nicely sewn.
It was a decent
If you
coat.
were making a coat, it was fantastic. I think he just sort of lost the structural element of it, and then it seemed like he kind of panicked and went, I'll just make a really giant hood.
I mean, I think the transformation challenge is a good place to have a play and maybe go a bit over the top, and exaggerating elements often leads to success.
Yes.
But I feel like there's a difference between an exaggerated fan or an exaggerated ruffle and just someone else who took maybe slightly similar inspiration but did something a bit more interesting with it was Heather.
Yes.
So somehow she looked at bright green tablecloth and thought some sort of Noel Gallagher Parker would be the way to go. I love the vision.
Yeah. Not sure it's up Knowles Street, but
probably not. But I think where she kind of brought in the drama, she had these ridiculous big boxy structural shoulders that just added a real kind of enlarged, oversized kind of comedic sense to it.
Yeah.
But it was fun and playful, and I think that's some of the things that are really nice to see in a transformation challenge.
Yeah, I think kind of taking this idea of, an everyday garment or something, but making it fun, making it a little bit ridiculous. I think she definitely had fun with it. I love that she had a little bit of time at the end as well to make a matching bag. I
mean, of course. Why not?
Someone else who had like their main garment and then a little matching piece was Beth, who had made this kind of like pink, weirdly structured dress. Looked kind of futuristic almost. She'd really played with the structure and again, a really fun garment. And then she tried to make a little beret. But she said with the waterproof fabric, it was giving more shower cap. But yeah, I love that she, again, had a little bit of time at the end and was like, I'm going to make a little accessory to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, when Beth was first talking about her garment and she was talking about circles and making something like Slinky inspired, I had no clue where her brain was going with this. But then what she made was this almost like a paper lantern kind of it was unusual, but it clearly a lot of work had gone into it. Was it wearable? Yeah. Was it high fashion? Yeah.
I mean, the pink fabric, it's kind of giving a bit Mr. Blobby, isn't it? If you go a bit a bit too structured in a pink fabric, is.
But again, I think these challenges are such a great place to just
Yes.
experiment, have fun, and she clearly had fun with this challenge and made something that it ticked the briefs of what they were looking for, and I thought was really interesting. Somebody who took a very different take, I think, to everyone else was Anna's. And this time around, she made a skirt design, which had various kind of zip-off elements in there. I thought it was really interesting the way, and I think she was the only one who really did this, who really took note of all the big motifs in the tablecloth. And so she kind of almost fussy cut some of those and used them as kind of feature elements on the skirt.
Yes, which was something that Patrick had mentioned kind of at the start.
I feel like he was looking for some of that.
Yeah, because they weren't allowed to take any kind of trims or embellishments. They could take fastenings and one tablecloth, but they couldn't take any extra stuff. And he'd kind of mentioned about how they could use the print on the tablecloth almost as an embellishment. And I think Anna was the only person who kind of thought about it like that.
But I feel like they just felt a bit stuck on. I must say, Anna has been one of my absolute highlights for the transformation challenges. I don't think this was her strongest. It didn't have quite the same impact and drama as maybe some of the other ones. But I think it was a safe kind of middle ground.
And then finally, the winner of the transformation challenge was Rebecca, who had also gone for a fan design, but had done a fan design where she'd incorporated it into the garment. So the fan was almost basically the top, or the front of the top was this big giant fan. I think hers looked really fantastic and definitely deserving of the win.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, obviously you could tell it was Rebecca's because it was pink.
Of course.
But yeah, the way that the centre of the way this fan was cinched in at the centre, almost creating that waistline, spreading out at the top, spreading out at the bottom, but then she'd made like an entire dress out of it. I think hers was the most complete look from top to toe. And I thought she just did a really fantastic job on it.
So the final challenge of the episode was the made to measure challenge, and this week the sewers were asked to create an outfit for a Mexican festival. So they could choose any of the numerous Mexican festivals that happen throughout the year, and they had 5 hours to create their outfits. I thought this was a really fun challenge because the colours and the drama that you see in outfits that are worn for Mexican festivals are just so beautiful. Like, they love a party.
Oh yes, and they love dressing up for a party. I thought this was a really lovely challenge, and I don't know how much support the bees get from like the production team when it comes to planning out any of these. But I must say, I was so impressed with how much thought had gone into all the different festivals. There was a story behind all of them. I think they were so well thought out, and just the variety. It really gave a sense of so much of the culture of Mexico, different parts of Mexico, and I felt like they really did justice to the theme and to the guest judge. They've definitely done their research on the festivals, and I think, like you say, for the guest judge, for Erica, it must have been so fantastic to see all of these wonderful garments celebrating her culture as well. That must have been really, really lovely. So one of the garments that had a really lovely story behind it was Emma's, who'd done the Festival of St. Cecilia, who was the patron saint of music and musicians. Obviously Emma is big into her music, but I also loved how she'd researched kind of more into St. Cecilia, and she'd learned about how she'd been sort of burnt for being a Christian, and she'd incorporated that element into her design in the colours that she'd chosen. So she had these like red and orange ribbon elements into her dress to kind of tell the story, as well as it just being a really wonderful party garment. I absolutely loved hers. Yeah, I thought of everyone, Emma had really thought about the story that she was telling through the costume, and I thought the way she incorporated those orange and yellow trims to give that sense of almost like fire was fantastic. The little kind of treble clef lace trim was super cute. It was a shame that when the model was wearing the garment, it was clear that the trims were kind of wonking off to the side.
Yes, I think if she just had like a tiny little bit stitching, just to stitch them down in place. It would have been okay. I
think she could have sold that as kind of the organic nature of the flames.
Oh yeah.
And maybe kind of run with that and see whether she could have got that past the judges. But I really liked this look. I thought it was perfectly balanced between garment and costume.
Yes, yeah.
And I think it's something that you could absolutely wear as either and really looked pretty elegant.
Yeah.
One that I absolutely loved was Tim's.
Yes.
Now, Tim was inspired by the male dancers, Hui dancers, I believe, who wear giant kind of feather headdresses. And he took that inspiration and made an absolutely gorgeous floral embroidered jacket, which had fantastic kind of feather trims on it.
Gorgeous.
And, you know, Tim took trims and he ran with it. So you had the feather trims, he had fringe trims on his jacket, and then he made a pair of stretch velvet trousers with pom-pom trims all down the side. There were trims everywhere.
This was definitely a challenge that was right up Tim's street. I think he loves kind of to go a bit camp and have all these embellishments and colour. I love the floral kind of embroidered fabric that he used.
I think that fabric was the star of the made to measure. It was so beautiful, and the fact that he'd gone to that trouble of perfectly pattern matching it down the front, which I don't think is an easy thing to do in the time constraints that you have for a made to measure. It just looked fantastic. And for Patrick to say, oh, it sounds a bit Liberace, I'm like, you're asking people to do festival outfits. Of course it's a bit Liberace.
Why not?
But yeah, I thought it was amazing. I mean, the fit and sewing on those trousers was a bit chunky.
I think it was, he'd spent a lot of time making that jacket with all of those trims and everything, and then the trousers are fairly quick to sew up, but I think you probably do need to spend a little bit more time in a made to measure making sure they fit. But I think, you know, your eye was drawn up to this fabulous jacket, so no one's looking at the trousers.
There was so much. I almost feel like the trim on the trousers wasn't even necessary, because the drama was all up here, and it was just so much fun. It looked camp, it looked over the top, it was just a delight for the eyes.
Yes. Now, someone else who I thought had picked a kind of tricky fabric to sew with was Minnie. So she had designed an outfit for Mexican Independence Day, and she had this lovely like white blouse with, again, like an embroidered cotton fabric, but it was the skirt where she had those flip sequins that I thought was just, she'd really challenged herself. I mean, even when she was cutting the fabric, you could actually hear the sequins pinging on the scissors. And she's really given herself a challenge there. But I think it paid off. It looked really lovely.
It looked really good. I think the story behind it, again, I thought was really interesting. This kind of Chinese princess kidnapped and then kind of combining her style with Mexican influences, and then using that green and red flip sequin for kind of Mexican independence was a really fun choice. There was definitely some kind of fit issues with the blouse.
Yes, I think it was, so she had like a sort of plain cotton, and then I think they said the embroidered cotton fabric was maybe just a little bit too structured, and it was kind of standing a bit proud on the shoulders. So I think maybe it was just possibly the wrong fabric choice for the style that she wanted. Yeah,
or I think Esme was like, well, you could take a little bit out of the shoulders here. So I think kind of on the made to measure front, it wasn't quite.
Yeah, she could have made more adjustments.
But to her it was a nice outfit, and kudos for tackling sequins as part of a there was lots of different fabrics going on.
Yes, yeah.
So someone who I think ended up with quite a similar type of garment to Minnie was Rebecca.
Yes.
So Rebecca had gone with, again, a floral yoke blouse, very kind of gathered peasant style, and then had made a real statement out of this really bright sky blue satin skirt with acres and acres of lace trim on it.
So much.
So much trim. And again, I feel like there was a lot of drama going on in the skirt, but the blouse was not the best fitting. It was. I think you want something like that to be kind of a little kind of loose, but it was. You could see it felt oversized a bit on the model.
Yes, yeah. I think again, it's probably she's had to spend so much time on the skirt. Yeah. I mean, she had it spread out on the floor. You could see there was so much fabric, so much trim going on. But yeah, I think she's sort of maybe not left herself enough time to properly fit the blouse as it should be. But yeah, a lovely garment, and I liked how she'd kind of brought in elements of her own sort of, she'd said she'd previously done ballroom dancing, and the skirt, especially in that satin fabric, had a kind of ballroom element to it.
Well, I think that is a nice touch, particularly for a kind of carnival fiesta.
Yes.
You want something that you can hoik up and
swish
dramatically across the dance floor. So I think she was definitely ticking the right boxes for the costume angle. Another maker who took their inspiration from dancers was Lewis, and his choice was kind of the outfits worn by Gayabera dancers. Apologies to any Spanish speakers out there. So in order to recreate that, he wanted to make some white drawstring trousers, a matching white shirt with inset broderie anglaise panels, and then a little kind of red necktie, kind of as a little flash of colour and as a real nod to what the traditional Gayabera dancers wear. Obviously, making a pair of trousers and a shirt in made-to-measure territory timings, it's a lot to take on.
Yeah.
And didn't quite manage to finish it all off.
No, I think he had chosen something that kind of fits his style, fits his personal style. So everyone else had gone very colourful, very bold. That just isn't really Lewis. He prefers he prefers neutral colours. I think he prefers kind of simpler, sleeker garments. And so I like that he did choose something that kind of related to him and his personal style.
Yeah.
But I think making a shirt and trousers in only 5 hours is difficult, but then making a shirt where you can't just cut like the front pieces, the back pieces, because you've got these inserts of the broderie anglaise fabric.
Yeah.
He's given himself extra steps to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a shirt on its own, that would have been lovely.
Yeah.
But, you know, as I know from even like something as simple as this, the minute you're adding extra panels in, you're taking extra time just to create almost the base fabric before you can do the rest of it.
Yes.
And I see his personal style coming through on this, and it is always nice to see some of the maker's personal style. I just don't think this was the right challenge to do that on.
No.
I think this was a challenge where you wanted to show colour, vibrancy, and I think that had he chosen a much more exciting fabric, some of his inability to get everything done in time might have been forgiven a bit more.
Yes.
And it was such a shame that that one bit of dramatic colour that he'd have got from that kind of neckerchief, he didn't have time to do. So it just like, hi, I've come to the party in white. Just didn't have the impact that it needed, which was a real shame.
Yeah, I think he got one button on his shirt, and I think if I had been running close to the time, like the time limit, and I hadn't got any buttons and buttonholes on my shirt, but I also hadn't sewn the one colourful piece that's kind of bringing the whole outfit together, I think I'd have focused on the necktie, left the shirt just as an open, unbuttoned shirt. and at least he would have had that pop of colour in there.
Yeah, I think it would have really helped. It was nice that he had that pop of colour in the drawstring.
Yeah.
But it certainly sounded like he lost a lot of time trying to sort out the kind of drawstring opening.
Yeah, I think he was struggling with the buttonhole kind of opening with that, which then again, he'd already struggled with the buttonholes, so I think I'd have definitely just, the buttonholes aren't happening today, leave them off the shirt, get that necktie done.
Yeah, I almost feel like maybe a quick pivot to snaps would have gone really helped, or using something like the Prim Vario tool to just set some eyelets for the drawstring. Yeah. But that's all kind of hindsight. You do what you can in the time that you've got, and that's where we ended up.
So someone who I think had designed their garment with the time limit in mind was Anna. So she wanted to make one of those gorgeous ribbon dresses, again for Independence Day. And if you've ever seen these ribbon dresses, they are normally have an absolutely massive kind of hem, lots of tiers, lots of ribbons, and again they're made for swishing and swooping. But Anna felt she wouldn't have enough time, so she created like a cute little short version of it. And I really liked it. I think her sewing was really neat. She'd got those ribbons on quite neatly. I think Patrick mentioned that he thought he could have done with one more tier because the length was a bit, he wasn't sure, was it supposed to be a mini version?
Yeah, it wasn't kind of short or long.
It was kind of halfway in between. And he'd mentioned that on stuff last week where he's clearly having a bit of a pernickety thing about length at the moment.
Yeah, he's like, give me everything or give me nothing.
Yes. So I think
and
she
a
was...
cheek.
Well, he needs a bum cheek in there. Yeah, definitely. I think I can see where he was coming from though, because it wasn't quite it could have been like a cheeky mini dress.
Yeah, I felt like Anna's, you looked at it from the waist up and it was stunning.
Yes.
I thought it fitted the model fantastically. I think it had like princess seams, so it just skimmed her body really well. The way she placed those ribbons looked amazing. Even on the back with the invisible zip, it was just perfection. And then you kind of zoomed out a bit and it didn't quite
it was just a bit of an awkward length. But yes, she definitely nailed the brief on made to measure, I think, which we've seen her do week after week. She is definitely got a talent for getting an absolutely perfect fit.
She is so good on the fit.
Yes, her invisible zip was very invisible as well, which is more than can be said for my invisible zips normally. So I think the bodice bit was lovely and stunning. I think it was just that skirt was a bit of an awkward length. Possibly if she'd had that extra tier it would have worked a bit better. But overall, a very, very lovely sew.
Well, someone who had a kind of similar inspiration and maybe a slightly similar style dress was Beth. Yes. And she'd gone for another gorgeous, deep red, super vibrant, kind of high-collared neckline. Yes. What I loved about hers was the embroidery that she'd used around the neckline. So I think it was an iron-on transfer that she had stitched on. I think I saw her stitching it on. But I loved that it was kind of asymmetric, so it felt kind of more natural, like roses kind of climbing around. Yeah. Hers was longer with a little tiered ruffle at the bottom, and I think that did give it a slightly more finished look.
Yes, I think she hadn't done like separate multiple tiers, she just made the dress longer and had that kind of bottom ruffle, but I think you could definitely tell what length it was supposed to be. It didn't look kind of awkward. She'd very firmly gone, I want it to be a long dress, dramatic, with this big ruffle at the bottom. And again, I think very, very neat sewing and a really great fit from Beth. She had those like lovely little almost puff sleeves and they looked like they fitted really well. She had the high neckline as well. I really liked her tip of she wanted that look of kind of like multiple layers of ribbon, but didn't have the time to do it, so she's like, well, I'll lay one ribbon over another and it gives the look of kind of three different ones, which I thought was really clever. I think her and Anna
know how to use their time effectively.
Yes, definitely.
The one thing that the judges really kind of picked at with Beth's though was just using a green ribbon at the waist.
Yeah.
And I see that it would have benefited for something, I think, bigger, a bit more dramatic.
Yeah, I can see where they were coming from, that it kind of looked like she'd sort of just quickly tied a ribbon round at the end.
She had, but she had intended to do that.
Yeah, but I think maybe a big bow for her.
Or like a proper like sewn sash that really had a bit more drama to it would have really just elevated the outfit that bit more. This challenge definitely had everyone in tears, and someone who went for a full kind of tiered ruffly look was Adele.
Yes.
Now, she was inspired by the Fiesta de Gran Dinero, and made a really lovely dress, kind of floor length with these lovely kind of tiers to it, in a very bold patterned kind of yellow, brown, quite large scale print design. And then she'd kind of highlighted each of her kind of tiers in little trims of rust lace and then a kind of rainbow trim through it. Now, I'm kind of with the judges a little bit that I didn't really like the colour scheme there.
Yeah.
I felt like the print was so powerful that little rainbow trim was almost just superfluous. It was just getting lost. If she'd had something like bold, I think maybe like solid colour is what would be needed.
Yeah, to pick out one of the colours from the print.
Against that kind of bold print. I thought it was a nice dress, nicely sewn.
Yes.
For me, this is one to go to a festival rather than costume. But it was nice. I thought she did a good job.
Yeah. Now, someone else who I think had taken that idea of something to wear to a festival rather than a traditional outfit that would be worn for these types of festivals was Heather. And she'd also gone for printed fabrics. But I liked that she had kind of used different colourways of the same prints or similar prints in her different tiers. It was these bold floral prints. So kind of like a dark coloured background with these really large scale bold florals, and it was absolutely beautiful. It was just gorgeous.
It was stunning. I think she did a superb job of mixing different prints, and they all had that kind of almost black background to kind of pull them together, but they were completely different. They didn't really match, but it worked really well. I think she had like 4 different fabrics, and I thought it was really clever of her to use prints to do the drama rather than trims. So that meant that she didn't have all that time applying trims. So when it came right down to the end and she was like, oh, I'll do that extra tier. I feel like it was that extra tier that just made that outfit
I think
stunning.
If she hadn't had that extra tier, it would have been, again, possibly kind of that awkward length, and maybe the judges would have picked up on that.
Well, I think particularly because hers was separates, that kind of lovely kind of ruffly top, then that little bit of skin, and then you needed that floor length skirt to kind of balance off that top. So it just, absolutely beautiful.
It's stunning, and it was, of course, a very well-deserved garment of the week. Absolutely beautiful, and great for Heather to win a garment of the week. I thought it was really lovely when she called her mum afterwards.
Oh, wasn't that cute?
It was so sweet, but a very well-deserved win for Heather. And of course, this week we had to say goodbye to Lewis.
Do you think the right person went this week?
I think, he's been sort of clinging on there for kind of the last week or so. And I think this week it wasn't his week, really. I think you give him a week that's all about drama and colour, which clearly isn't his comfort zone. It's not what he's used to sewing. It's probably not what he sews for himself. I think it just wasn't his week.
Yeah, I think when you're thrown out of your comfort zone in the sewing bee, what the judges are looking for is for you to embrace that and thrive outside your comfort zone. And I feel like he he didn't do that this week.
No.
So it's a shame because I think he's made some really lovely garments.
Yes.
That jumpsuit he made was gorgeously made.
I think he's very good at kind of precise sewing.
Yeah.
And very neat, sleek garments.
But yeah, creativity, drama,
Yeah.
definitely less familiar territory. So sad to see him go. Obviously sad to lose a mail maker, but so I'm flying the flag for Tim for however long he manages to stay in there. Do you think you would have picked this as a garment of the week?
I think, yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautifully sewn. If I had to pick between them, I think maybe Beth would have just taken it for me, just because I thought hers had that kind of real festival look to it. But yeah, Heather's was very well deserved. It was stunning, and I think all of the judges really liked it. The guest judge Erica did say it had a very kind of Mexican vibe to it. So yeah, I think she had fit the brief and it looked lovely.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I love the fact that Erica enjoyed it. Love the fact that it was kind of Mexican and traditional inspired, but done in a very contemporary way. I kind of agree with you that if we're talking costume, for me, Beth's was probably the most dramatic, or Anna's from the top up. But I do feel Heather, absolutely worthy winner. It looked stunning. And it's really nice that we are 4 weeks into the show and we've had 4 different Garment of the Week winners.
Yes, it's nice to see variation. It's nice that it's not one person who is consistently deserving but consistently getting Garment of the Week.
It feels quite an open competition there at the moment.
Yeah, it's nice to kind of, that you haven't almost got a winner picked out or nearly picked out early on in the competition. It's still, I think, anyone's competition at the moment.
So if you are inspired by the Made to Measure and want to bring a little bit of Mexican fiesta drama and ruffles through to some of your outfits, we've picked out a couple of patterns that we think give you a good starting point to work on. So first of all is the Alexa frill dress from Liberty. Now this is a lovely style that I think would be a good starting point if you wanted to create something like Anna's, Beth's or Emma's this time. So it's got a high neckline, it's got fitted sleeves with a ruffle detail at the elbow, and then there's a single tier kind of little ruffle on the skirt, which you can do either with or without the ruffle for a more kind of standard outfit. But I think that ruffle is something that you could then tier up and then kind of add to the drama. It would be fantastic for adding kind of lace details, for adding ribbons, turning into a ribbon dress. I think it's a really kind of good starting point. And this covers UK sizes 6 to 22, so you've got a decent range to start with there.
Now, if you want to create something very, very dramatic, but have all those ruffles already created for you in the pattern, then McCall's 8087 is a fantastic option. So it's got this really dramatic ruffled tiered skirt. But you've got a few different options for the bodice and the neckline, so you can have kind of like a simple off the shoulder gathered ruffle at the top. Or you can go for a nice halter neckline. You can add sleeves to the little ruffles, so lots of options, and I think this would be fantastic again for adding trims maybe along those different tiers to kind of separate them out a little bit.
And then another option, if you really like that off the shoulder ruffle top vibe, particularly the likes of Heather's top, then New Look 6507 is a super option. So this gives you 4 different options for a dress or top with various different kind of ruffle off the shoulder options. So you have like straight across off the shoulder, you have the option of straps if you're not someone who wants to trust that gravity won't take control over you. But there's also really cute kind of asymmetric one shoulder options.
Yes.
So if you're inspired by what Minnie created in the Transformation Challenge, you could get a similar look, I think, with this pattern as well. So I think it's a really lovely option. And then if you wanted to, you could do what Heather did, crop this short, pair it up with a tiered skirt for that extra level of drama. Now, obviously, we can't wrap things up without asking, Annie, if you were put into this made-to-measure challenge, what would you have come up with?
Well, I absolutely love these really dramatic tiered ruffled skirts, and so I had a little hunt through on the website and I found the Fashion Studio Anna dress, which has that lovely off-the-shoulder ruffle detail at the top, and this really dramatic tiered skirt that I think would just be really fun to swish around in. Now, the fabric I've picked one of our prints from the Melissa Lowry range, which has a really lovely kind of like folk art style design.
Very folkloric.
Yes. So this is, I've actually got this on our ITY fabric, but I think if I was going to make one of these tiered dresses, something like a viscose challis would be really swishy and really lightweight and have lovely drape and movement. So this is the Estampas print. I've got this in the
Rojas
colourway, which is this nice kind of deep rust orange background with the lighter orange print on the top. But there is also a pink Rosas colourway, which is like a pink and red colourway as well. And yeah, I love the kind of folk art print of this design. I think it has a real kind of, you can see Melissa's kind of Mexican influences coming through on this print. And yeah, I think I haven't picked out a particular festival. I think I'd go down the route of a dress to wear to kind of any Mexican party or festival.
Keep it versatile.
Yes. Now, if you were heading off for a Mexican party, what would you make?
Well, I thought it was very interesting this week that of all the Mexican festivals they could have picked, no one went for the Day of the Dead.
Yes.
So Dia de las Muertas is where I headed off to for my inspiration. Obviously, love a bit of golf, love a bit of black drama, and opportunity for the makeup department at the BBC to go crazy, do a little Day of the Dead makeup and distract from all the sewing. So that's my kind of thoughts there. So I've gone with fabric-wise, blacks obviously, for a bit of Day of the Dead action. So this is our Classique Duchess satin in a really gorgeous black fabric. And I think this is lovely for just the way that it catches the light, and it's got that little bit of structure to it.
Yeah, it's got a really nice weight to it, actually.
So this is going to be fabulous for the skirt, as when I come to that. But the Day of the Dead festival, the kind of flower the motif for it is marigolds. So marigolds are like a symbol of the dead, and a symbol of kind of leading the dead to the underworld, I believe, in Mexican folklore. So I wanted to bring through some kind of orange, some kind of bright marigold orange. So this is our rust colour in our Classique Duchess satin. So I think this paired with the black would create fantastic drama for the Candy Castle Patterns Sunshine Swirl Skirt.
Wow.
So this is a skirt with fantastic drama. It is huge. And this is all about panels. So I would be there for a very long time doing individual panels.
Well, you've only got 5 hours.
Well, but there's no trims.
Oh, okay.
So basically making panels of these gold and black. And then for the top, I would keep it super simple because, you know, time pressures.
Yes.
So I would go for the Itzoma Sandia top. So this is, Itzoma is Melissa Lowry's pattern design. And this is a really cute, it's like a very simple cropped shell top. It's got little ties at the side. And I would do this, picking up again that kind of marigold colourway. This is our Tammy Handmade Hopeful Hearts Charmeuse Silky Satin, and this colourway is called Marmalade. And this is now available across all our Tammy handmade fabrics.
Yes.
So there's some lovely little florals in there. So I might be tempted to put some of that into the skirt as well.
Oh, yeah.
To kind of pull that detail down from the top. And if I had time, which let's be honest, I would not, I would use some of this marigold coloured satin to make some little marigold flowers to maybe kind of put around the waist as well. So that's my plan that I would absolutely not have time to do, but would look fantastic if I did.
So next week is Sports Week. Now this is another week that they tend to bring out, if not every year, kind of, they've done it before.
It's a regular.
Yes, because it challenges the sewers to work with kind of different fabrics like activewear fabrics, stretch fabrics, so it's always an interesting week. So the pattern challenge for next week is they are creating classic men's swimming shorts. I assume that's going to have some mesh on the inside that they're going to have to deal with, some drawstrings.
So Lewis doesn't have to do more drawstrings, at least there's that.
So so that will be, I think, again, another deceptively simple pattern.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of technical detail in that one.
Yes. The transformation, they are transforming windsurfing sails, which they're going to have a lot of fabric to work with.
It's a lot of fabric, but that is not going to be easy fabric to work with.
Yes, and I think they're going to need a lot of kind of floor space for just spreading out those windsurfing
And I believe they're
sails.
turning that into, what, a matching two-piece?
Yeah, some kind of like co-ord set or outfit, so interesting to see how that one's going to work.
Yes.
The Made to Measure, they are creating bowling shirts and they're asking them to use kind of free motion embroidery, which I'm not sure we've seen on the Sewing Bee before.
I feel like as a Made to Measure challenge, I don't remember it.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's interesting, this one, because at its base, all the bowling shirts will be probably quite similar.
Yes.
Probably not entirely dissimilar to the shape of this, but then it's all about that embroidery. They can do applique, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
So again, I think this is it's about creativity. It's about probably telling a story through what you're doing.
Yes.
I think this will be an interesting one. I feel like this is as close to Menswear Week as we're getting.
Yeah.
So, hey, yay, some menswear. So yeah, I'll be really interested to see what they create.
Yeah, they've not really done a challenge like that with lots of embroidery and stuff on it, and I think it will be challenging for any of the sewers who maybe haven't done free motion embroidery, haven't used those machines.
And this is one where you're going to have to be creative.
Yes.
So those who struggle a bit more with the creative elements are really going to have to up their game on this one. Thank you so much for joining us for this latest video. It's always a pleasure to get to talk through the Sewing Bee. We, either me, Annie, Vicki, or a mix of the three of us, will be back next week to talk about Sports Week. In the meantime, do let us know what you've thought about this episode in the comments below. Did you agree with the garment of the week? Do you think the right person went home this week? What have you made that's been Mexican inspired? We would love to hear all about it. Now do make sure you follow along and subscribe to us on YouTube or follow along on Minerva TV at Minerva. We have fantastic new videos for you every single day, from learn to sew videos, sew-alongs, fabric picks, fabric masterclass insights. There is so much to learn, so much to enjoy. And do make sure that you head along to Minerva as well to join in the Minerva sewing community. It's just the loveliest place to share your makes, share advice, learn from other makers, and just be inspired for all your upcoming projects. It's completely free to register. Just head along to minerva.com/register to sign up, and you'll also get access to a whole load of different free sewing patterns. So it's well worth signing up if just for that. Well, that's all we've got time for this week. We hope to see you again next week. Until then, happy sewing.